Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Hey everyone, this is sort of midweek bonus episode of The Team House. We don't usually cover breaking news on this show, but considering everything that's going on in Afghanistan right now, as you know, the country collapsed much faster than our government anticipated, and that stranded a lot of American citizens, as well as green card holders and special immigration visa holders, Afghans who worked with us and with our government in the country as the Taliban essentially surrounded them. So there have been a lot of veterans who have stepped up. Obviously, our government is trying to step up right now to try to get these people out before the August 31st deadline for a full withdrawal hits. So, again, we don't normally cover kind of breaking news on this show, but I had Mick hit me up this week. He is part of one of these efforts of veterans who are trying to help Afghans get out. He hit me up, said, hey, we're trying to do media engagement. We need help. We need volunteers. And since Dave and I this is what we do. We are sort of media guys, YouTubers, like it or not. This is sort of what we do. So I figured we should use the platform to kind of help the folks out there who are trying to do a good thing. So Mick and Worth, if you guys could first introduce yourselves and kind of your backgrounds very quickly, then we'll kind of get into the situation in Kabul today.
Mick, why don't you lead off?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for doing this. Like you mentioned, we really need volunteers, and I think your audience probably is full of people that could really step up and immediately add value. So by way of background, Mick Mulroy, I was a Marine. I was a paramilitary officer in the CIA until I retired, and then went and worked as the Deputy Secretary for the Middle East under Secretary Matt Esper. Now I work for ABC News as a national security correspondent, and as you see over my well-placed picture of my consultant group, I do with Eric Ulrich, a retired SEAL. And I am a member of the group of which Worth speaks on behalf, so I'm here to support him and just discuss the general situation. But Worth is doing the talking for the Dunkirk group.
And so, as should be evident from Mick's intro, my name's Worth Parker. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. Spent about the last 15 years of my career, which ended just back in June, at the Marine Special Ops Command as a raider, and then preceded that with a bunch of time at Force Recon. So I've spent a lot of time within the SOCOM world. Task Force Dunkirk is an organization that kind of sprung up about a week ago when all of this went off. Honestly, the genesis for my involvement was last Sunday. So we're 10 days into this now. A Marine who reached out to me, who's a prior Afghan Terp, now American citizen and U.S. Marine, said, "Hey, sir, can you help me out?" And my family's still in Kabul, and at the time I didn't know what I could do really. But I've been watching another Marine, Major Tom Schumann, who's managed to get his interpreter here to the States, or en route to the States, and I was kind of inspired by that. Ended up helping this other Marine, and that has grown, and we've ultimately aligned ourselves with an outfit called Team America, which is a really impressive bunch of younger vets who are way more digitally capable and way more agile and nimble than all of us guys in our late 40s and early 50s. What we bring to the fight to support them is a lot more contacts, reach, and the ability to pick up a phone and call people that can affect things on the ground. So coming together as one, we are now in support of a 501c3 called No One Left Behind. No One Left Behind is been in place since, I think, 2014 and has been focused on resettling Afghan and Iraqi interpreters, and now they've moved to full-blown humanitarian aid. So there's going to be a huge need going forward, and I'm real happy to talk about that.
And I just want to throw it up there while we're at the beginning of the episode. If you look down the description of this video, you're going to see a couple email addresses. And one of them, they both come from this organization. The first email is for people who need help being evacuated from Afghanistan right now. The second email is for people who want to volunteer to help out Mick and Worth with this effort. So if you go down there, you'll find those emails in the description. So the first question I wanted to kind of hit you up with, because there's actually a lot of rumors that are just spreading like wildfire all around the veteran community as well as in Kabul itself. What is the current situation at the international airport in Kabul? What is going on the ground right now?
Mick?
So you want me to start? Yeah. So, I mean, the latest thing is there was just an alert went out, I think, from the U.S. Embassy that they expect an imminent attack. Some of the key gates to get into the airport, right? So it's only like 4:30 in the morning there now. So I don't know how many people are actually out there, but that's caused a lot of scramble. Obviously, we're getting close to the end, to the 31 August deadline, which means pretty soon we're going to have to start retrograding a lot of our forces, and it's going to quite frankly end the evacuation of SIVs, I would assume. But we're not giving up. I think, as Worth already mentioned, we're not going to give up, obviously, until the 31st deadline, and we're not going to give up after. So I do want people to go to that email that you already posted, sign up, whether you have an SIV or in the process of getting an SIV or you need to start. There is a way to do that right now. And then after the U.S. has left, HKIA, we're still going to be there to try to help people, facilitate them in any way we can to get out of the country. And if they have the proper documentation, get to the United States. And then, of course, like Worth mentioned, the 501c3 is facilitating their resettlement here with no man left behind, no one left behind.
Yeah, I just read that I think Airbnb is going to temporarily house 20,000. I mean, there are a lot of efforts that people. What are some of the most difficult parts of the coordination going on right now?
I think at the ground level, and that's really where everything, and you guys know this is where it always happens, is just the simple understanding of what's clear policy and what's a notion developed over time. I think, one, I want to go ahead and just say I know a good number of the more senior folks on the airfield. I had the pleasure of talking to a Marine on the airfield last night who was able to help us save some lives. And I told him, I mean, it's weird, man. I've spent 27 years as a United States Marine. I've never been prouder of Marines than I have been this week with their willingness to just go out and do what they got to get done to save people's lives. And their willingness to pick up the phone and hear a voice on the other end that says, hey, I'm Worth Parker. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, and I need you to do this. And obviously they're operating within the mandate of their mission, but if what I need is within their capability set, they've been executing. And I just think that's an incredible testament to the American service member. But it's still, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mick.
Yeah, I just wanted to foot stomp what you were saying there. So, I mean, there's going to be, and probably rightfully so, a lot of criticism on the decision, both to withdraw and not leave a residual force, and how we actually withdrew. But I don't think there'll be any righteous criticism on the Herculean effort that went on with our U.S. military, with our foreign service officers, with the intel officers, all the Americans that have been doing, which is going to be the largest airlift in history. And I really do think we ought to recognize that, because this is obviously not looking good from a lot of perspectives around the world, but it's not because of anything that our military didn't do. They did everything I think they could to make this work, and I think we need to recognize that.
Yeah, I mean, and that it's amazing. It goes all the way up. I happen to know the MU commander. And I reached out to him last night and I said, hey man, I got something I need. Now he's doing something probably a whole lot harder and a whole lot more substantial than anything I've got going on, much more complex. He's got all those Marines and sailors that he's worried about, equipment, security, everything else, in the middle of a pretty mad situation. And his response was, what do you need? That's pretty amazing. But I think it speaks to, the relationships that we've all built over the last 20 and 25 years. I've known that particular guy since 1993. But it also brings to the fore hey man, a lot of us, our community, we've grown up in Afghanistan. We've grown up next to the guys that we're trying to help now. I mean, I'm 48 years old, and 9/11 was, I was 28 or about to be 29. We came of age with these guys. And so the notion that we would walk away from them is just a non-starter.
Right. Who are these dudes, these Afghans that you're getting out? I know, we don't need to talk about names and specifics. I could compromise anyone, but if you could tell us a little bit about who these people are that you worked with that you're now trying to get out of the country.
Yeah, so I mean, I spent 13 months, I think, in Afghanistan in aggregate, 2 different deployments with 2 different special ops task forces, and I worked very closely with Afghans both times. And specifically, my last one, I was the J5 of CJSOTF Alpha, so Combined Joint Special Ops Task Force for Afghanistan, for anybody that doesn't speak militaries. And one of my chief portfolios as the J5 was partnership and working with ANISOC, the commandos and the special forces, and supporting them and training them and equipping them, et cetera. And I think, we watched over the last year and a half as they've borne the brunt of a lot of the worst fighting in Afghanistan. And those are guys that we're obviously very focused on. But the truth of the matter is, I'm interested in anybody. I mean, a debt of loyalty is a debt of loyalty. And moreover, kind of a message I really want to get out to people as I've been talking to the press this week is this is not a military issue. This isn't a bro issue. This is an issue of humanity. Mm-hmm. When you hear the stories coming out of there, like how you could not want to help blows my mind. Or, I mean, if anybody didn't want to, I really hadn't been getting anybody. I'm swarmed with people that want to help.
Yeah. And I got to be a little more coy about my time there, as Dave would tell you. But essentially, it was just like every other paramilitary officer. I spent years in Afghanistan, and we've and working and fighting alongside Afghans who I think put everything on the line, not just for their country, but quite frankly for me and my friends, who are usually a very small component in a much larger Afghan unit. And if it wasn't for them, I did lose a lot of friends, but I probably lost a lot more. So I think my first take was that, and then I started getting so many people that were looking out for Afghans that they knew, and it was just super impressive. They wanted to help. They wanted to help their friends. They wanted to help anybody else's friends get out of there. I mean, and Worth will tell you, without going into details, there's so many chats that we're tracking right now of people trying to help Afghans right now. Like if we turned on our phone, all you would hear was the ping from WhatsApp. It would be just going nonstop during there. And that's all of these volunteers that are doing everything they can day and night to try to facilitate these individuals getting through these very difficult, quite frankly, Taliban checkpoints to get onto the airport to be able to get registered and fly out of there. So it's not going to end. But I can tell you, it is truly impressive to see how many people, and it did start, quite frankly, to all the form this, it did start mostly as a military thing. But I think if we had some of the other people on tonight, you'd see that this has rapidly expanded to civilians, people who haven't served in Afghanistan. They're the ones that are staying up, all night trying to facilitate. It really has gone beyond the initial, military soft intel folks, which is good. But we need all types. So, it's really helpful that if your listeners are listening tonight, they want to be involved, you already gave them the way to do it.
And for people who do want to be involved, like what are some of the roles that you guys need help with, or how can people help?
Well, so, that's morphing like everything else. I mean, these things all sprung up a week ago, right? We're not the only, Task Force Dunkirk and Team America are hardly the only entities that exist that are doing very similar things in parallel, enough so that now we're starting to Zoom together and talk and figure out how we can support one another. But Task Force Pineapple, Digital Dunkirk are just two of the ones I'm tracking that are out there doing great things. And Arctalis is a bunch of guys who have got planes, and in they came, and out some Afghans went. And so there's a lot of people doing amazing things. And Mick brings up a real beautiful point, is that the involvement of civilians. When the rock star story in this whole thing someday, when we start telling the story, is Team America. And Joe Sabo is the guy that I work with over there. Joe's a guy who did a deployment or two, I don't remember how many, to Mosul as a young airborne infantry officer. Formed a relationship with a Terp. I can't even remember if, actually, I think they were working to pull a Terp that another guy worked with in the Argonaut. But the point of that is young company-grade officers who got out, did the post-service trip. Now Joe's a CEO of a tech startup. Guys are executives of small businesses, whatever they are. They're in their second week of vacation now, running a virtual jock that started with 3 or 4 guys who said, hey, we've got to get our Terp out. And it's turned into 150 volunteers, battle tracking, supporting, counseling Afghans, talking to people. What's the best option? How can we best support these people? So, I've been saying for a number of years, people like to millennial bash, but those are people that didn't notice that we spent the last 20 years fighting 2 wars on their backs.
Right.
And watching these guys now, I'll be honest with you, I'm running on day 7 in this room with very little sleep. But I got a little choked up this morning when I woke up at 5 and Joe had sent me a sit rep on something we were working last night, and he had pushed through 82 Afghans and had them moving forward.
Wow.
And I don't know the last time that guy slept. I keep counseling like I would a lieutenant, like, hey, go take care of yourself. He's running hard.
What are the bottlenecks right now that you guys are encountering as far as you mentioned like Taliban checkpoints. Is it the checkpoints? Is it the immigration paperwork? What are the big roadblocks right now?
I alluded to it earlier. It's clarity, right? So what paperwork does someone need? And I'm just getting this from the ground, right? This is guys on the ground telling me. Does somebody have the right clarity? But the other thing you have to understand is it's the vagaries of what these Marines, and I'm saying Marines because I know Marines on the gate. I'm sure there's other services there too. But what they're being presented with. You're a 19-year-old Lance Corporal and a family of 19 comes up to you, and dad was a Terp for Bravo 15 down in the Helmand, and he's got a piece of paper that says, I'm this, or my SIV is in status or whatever. You're making decisions at that level. And I think it's pretty incredible that they're doing what they're doing. There's been multiple occasions when I've gotten a text from Joe. It's like, hey, sir, I need you to make a phone call. I'm talking to a Marine sergeant at the gate. Can you talk Marine to Marine? That's the kind of thing that's happening to clarify, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is who this guy is. Can you help us out? And it's really been pretty amazing. I'm just like Mick said, apolitical. I'm nonpartisan. I'm not a political guy. I've been an executor of policy for 27 years. I'm not sure that a Lance Corporal should be the one that has to make that decision.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think they're dealing with a situation, if you think about it. So you've got the Taliban who essentially already controlled the city once the majority of the evacuation was taking place, and we're trying to evacuate people who have visas because they worked with the United States against the Taliban. Mm-hmm. So, if you really tried to create a situation to make an evacuation as complicated as possible, and then throw in, the threat of ISIS Khorasan, that's it, right? And then you have thousands and thousands and thousands of Afghans that just want to try to get on the airfield who don't have the proper paperwork and quite frankly don't qualify. Right. So the chaos there, I think, is considerable. Again, I'm not a partisan either, but you could certainly criticize how we got in these positions, but you can't criticize the effort that's been undertaken by either the official U.S. effort or these volunteers. And I definitely second Joe Sabo and his folks. Literally, 82, like Bert just said, that was just last night. I don't even know how many people that I watch them every night, and they're on like 6 different evac chats. And I tell you what, it is very difficult, but these young folks are not giving up. And I think they've really proven that they've had some great successes.
So it's a pile of great Americans.
So, you guys have mentioned these evac chats and these organizations and groups that are in contact with each other and all working together for the larger effort. In every crisis, or most every crisis, it sort of brings out grifters or people who may not be looking to make money, but at least, make a reputation. Have you guys had to deal with that? And how hard is it separating like the wheat from the chaff in people who are actually part of the effort, people who are just, grandstanding or showboating, if that's happened at all?
I think some of that exists. I think some of it is silly, and I think we'll see stuff develop. I mean, look, we watched the development of the veterans charity space over, since 9/11, especially. Mm-hmm. I'm a past vice president of the Marine Raider Association. Very good friends with the guys that run the Marine Raider Foundation. Doug Livermore with No One Left Behind is with Green Beret Foundation. Mm-hmm. So we're all engaged in those spaces, and we also all know, there's 47,000 veterans organizations out there, 501c3s and whatnot. There's always somebody trying to take advantage of something. That absolutely exists. I will say, Task Force Dunkirk hasn't existed long enough to ask anybody for any money, but we're not gonna. Right. We don't need any money. I mean, I'm self-contained. I'm right here in my house doing my thing. Likewise, Team America, purely volunteer, 150 people running on fumes in their second week of paid time off, hopefully, or they just took leave from their jobs. And a lot of employers have been real generous about, just go do what you got to do. Go save lives. Come back when you're done. We are all in direct support of No One Left Behind, which is a 501c3, which got a long history of credibility. And so I'm real comfortable throwing myself behind that one. But will there be grifters? Absolutely. I haven't seen a whole lot of that. I've seen some silliness. The whole Instagram slam full of Instagram commandos. And I'm sure there's plenty of those guys that shoot straighter, run faster, lift heavier, or whatever than I do. But the notion that somebody's going to go, roll out with 7 of my bros and fix this is fantasy land for never were's and won't ever be's or has been.
Yeah, I haven't seen, at least in the Dunkirk Team America conglomeration, I haven't seen any of it. I think one, we haven't been around long enough. But two, it's pure volunteer. This is not, when people have offered, quite frankly, a lot of donations, and we just send them toward No One Left Behind. Right? That's not what we're here for. We're not here to create some entity that then becomes its own thing and employs people and all that. We're here for this one task. No, as far as I'm concerned.
It's kind of the purest way to do charity work is that it just kind of comes together organically like that for a task, and there's no grift, there's no corruption, there's no time for it to even develop because you guys are just hitting the ground running.
No, it's a soft approach to charity, right? We saw a problem, we wanted to solve the problem, we organized. In a lot of ways, I give a whole lot of credit to my parent service, at least for my approach to this. It's McTaffery. Let's task organize and get it done. And I think that's pretty magical. And frankly, it developed organically. And my prediction is it'll go away organically because there's going to be a point when people need to go back to being business executives and tech guys and finance pros and whatever else that they are. I retired from the Marine Corps to write for a living. So my agent wants me writing. I want to be writing. Not running a jock. Right. I did that.
Right.
So right now, it sounds like there's just, I don't know, do you know how many flights are coming out of Afghanistan per day?
No idea.
The official numbers they're putting out are like huge, like 20,000 people or something like that being evacuated a day. I don't know how many flights that is, but that's insane. What's the plan after August 31st?
I'm gonna use a term of art. For Dunkirk, I would say it's conditions based. We've built. I was talking to an SF guy about it today. What's happened here, especially the Team America guys, is unbelievable. If you had told me in my days in uniform, hey man, you've got about 36 hours to get a battalion-sized element up and running to C2 or at least coordinate efforts to move untold thousands of people through processing and towards an airfield and get them off. And, oh, by the way, don't get in the way of DOD who actually has to do this thing and do it in accordance with the protocols of the Department of State. I would have been like, Yeah, cool story, bro. That's right out there. Me and 8 of my bros are going to go put this thing right in Kabul. But it's happened. And that's where I go back to giving much love to the millennials. I mean, I'm old. I'd have been like, get out of here. And meanwhile, one of the first time I talked to Joe Sabo, which happened because of a military connection, Jim Webb's a buddy of mine. He wrote a story for Military Times about it. He sent it to me. I read it. I called Joe. And I said, let's get together. And when I was like, we've got 7 or 8 former highly ranking special operators and CIA. And he's like, that's cool. We got 90 people up and running a virtual jock 24/7 and they're all volunteers. Oh, wait, it's 120 now. I just looked, so they were just metastasizing as I was talking to Joe. It is incredible.
Amazing.
And I mean, and he said it with no ego. It was just like, this is what we're doing. And why wouldn't we? We've got slack. Why wouldn't we?
There's going to be all kinds of problems, though. I mean, at least from what our government is saying, that we're not going to be able to get everyone out before the deadline. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Mick, I throw that one to you since it's kind of an inherently a political question as well in regards to the military being there. How do you think we're going to handle this?
So, yeah, and that's not as my role as a member of Dunkirk, but just as an analyst of policy, not politics, but policy. I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions about why we weren't willing to leave a residual force in Afghanistan to preserve everything we fought for in the last 20 years, quite frankly. Our strategic objectives were to remove the Taliban because they allowed a safe haven in the country for terrorist organizations. Now, the Taliban is back in charge of Kabul, and we're worried about a terrorist threat to us in Kabul. So the question of whether they're going to house a terrorist organization has been answered. They are. So from a policy perspective, and, this is bipartisan criticism, if you will, because this was a carryover from administration to administration, people are going to have to answer that question for a long time. And then how we did this with allowing the Kabul area to collapse prior to exfiltrating all the Americans, the embassy staff, and the SIV. But again, we are where we are. So the State Department said today there's about 1,500 Americans left by their count. There's another media report there's like 5,000. I don't know which one it is any more than anybody else. But we need to do everything we can as a country to ensure that every one of them gets out that wants to get out, because we have an absolute obligation to American citizens to get them out of a country that is going to be ruled by a group like the Taliban. So I thought we should extend the deadline. I thought we should just tell the Taliban what we're doing and not negotiate with the Taliban, and just say, we are still the United States and we have more combat power to project than any other country in the world. We should stay. But we decided not to do that. So how are they going to leave no other U.S. military presence there when there's still Americans who may want out? I'm not sure. But we'll see when we hit the deadline of 31 August. But I think most people are saying we're not going to get all the Americans. We're certainly not going to get all the SIV holders out.
And I mean, there's historical precedent for this, right? I wrote an article for the National Interest magazine back in April, co-authored with Milt Bairden. Milt was the chief of station in Pakistan during the war that the Soviets had in Afghanistan. And history tells us, A, this was going to happen, and B, that we will see Afghans come out of Afghanistan for the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the critical emphasis I put on No One Left Behind, is that you're going to see the diaspora grow, right? There's a lot of Afghan expats living in Northern Virginia, in Texas, in Northern California, and those communities are about to grow. They have to. And they're also going to need support. I've said this 12 times today, so it's going to sound canned, but, I wish the average American would think of it like this. I'm going to call you tomorrow morning at about 02:03. I'm going to tell you to grab all the cash that you have, shove it in your pocket, leave everything else behind, grab your toddlers. I need you to get to the airport. When you get to the airport, there will be about a quarter-mile worth of mosh pit that you've got to pull your 5 toddlers through, and your wife. And when you get there, hopefully you get through a gate. If you get through the gate, hopefully you get through another gate. Hopefully you get manifested for a flight. And if you do, you're going to a third country for some indeterminate amount of time. Once you get there, hopefully then you're going to get to America where you've got some sort of sponsorship. But when you do, like all the stuff that made you a middle-class American, your flat screen and your 1 week of vacation a year at the beach and your monster truck, like that doesn't exist anymore. Your 401k is out the window. You don't have plates anymore. Mm-hmm. So you're starting completely over. We need to be thinking about how we're going to handle that just as simple human beings. If I see my neighbor's truck in the ditch, I stop and I pull it out. Well, this is, the world's biggest truck in the world's biggest ditch. And I'm not going to not stop and pull it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when my interpreter in Iraq, who's Yazidi, he thankfully got out with his family maybe just a year before ISIS hit the place and the whole genocide that happened there. But there was a Christian charity group waiting for him in Nebraska that resettled his entire family and really took care of him. I mean, it was amazing. And as you point out, they're already, I think, planning to put many of these Afghans on military housing at Fort Bliss and some bases in Wisconsin. But I mean, this is going to be a secondary major effort to resettle all of these folks and integrate them into the United States.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, Jack, I think the American population needs to know that these people are the people that
we want here.
Some of them risk their lives to support the U.S. in Afghanistan. They are the type of people we want as citizens. So right. To the extent that any of this, we don't want these folks in our country is happening out there, people need to push back against that strongly. We are a nation, and I'm not getting political here, but, I'm an Irish guy and I'm in Montana, Irish American, and I'm in Montana. So we're a nation of immigrants. These are the type of immigrants we want. Right. They're super good people. They've proven their dedication to the same ideology that we have in our country. And we need to support them come to this. And we need to be, just like you said, we need to be that group in Nebraska that's taking in folks and helping them get settled here. It's not enough just to get them here. It's enough we need to actually help them assimilate into our society and embrace them, because they are the type of people we want here.
And since it's a bunch of vets talking to a primarily bunch of vets audience, the thing I say too is, about 1% of America serves. About a half of 1%, I think, or 0.05% sees actual combat. Meanwhile, I always say all the time, I did one combat tour in Iraq, and then I did 2 tours to combat zones in Afghanistan, and that's just the difference between being a captain major and being a lieutenant colonel. But a lot of these Terps, they were on a combat deployment for 6 or 8 years. Yeah. The Marine whose family I helped, he got shot well before he ever joined the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. He saw scads. I don't know if he's ever seen combat as a Marine. Doesn't have a combat action ribbon, but he's seen a whole lot more combat than I have. So I think thinking about that and recognizing that's the kind of people that are coming. These people have actually shed their blood in support of this nation. Right. Which is vastly more than 99% of the nation has endeavored to do over the last 20 years when many people had an opportunity.
Right. And I think that it's kind of lost on people sometimes that these people lived with daily risk, that it wasn't just a combat operation where they risked their life. It was just going home for the weekend, where they might get rolled up by people who have informed on them or whatever else. Their lives were always at risk every single day, no matter what they were doing.
Yeah, when I was in Iraq, every time one of the interpreters said he was going to go home for a vacation, I assumed I would not see him again. Yeah, and I remember one of the best guys we had. I mean, he was right in with all the Force Recon guys. He got dropped off at the gate of a fob in a bag, small pieces in a bag. Yeah. And that's all because he worked with us. Yep.
So, guys, I know there's a lot of veterans out there who are feeling like shit over all of this. People who are just down on it. You guys have kind of stepped up and stayed really proactive on it. I was wondering if you can share some success stories with folks out there to help them understand what it is that you're doing, help them understand these Afghans, I know it's been a long couple weeks, but if you have any anecdotes that you can tell about getting people out of there, that'll give people a good idea of what it is that you're endeavoring to do here.
Yeah, I mean, those are happening daily and nightly. As I said last night, I was smoked yesterday. I don't know why, but sometimes you have those days. This is the closest I feel like I've had real combat ops in a long time. And I mean, in years, not just because I'm retired. And I just really needed to get some sleep last night. And I was headed towards the bed when, of course, the bing, 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 bing started from the signal. And, we had guys we were trying to push through. And as I said earlier, it took a concerted effort of reaching out to the MU commander. It took a concerted effort of, I just dialed the cell phone of the Marine officer at the gate, and he picked up, and I was like, "Hey, Captain, here's who I am." "Hey, Roger, sir." "Well, you don't have to call me sir anymore. I'm Worth because I'm retired, but this is who I am. This is my creds, and you can ask the MU commander if I am who I say I am. I need some help." And he said, "Roger, sir, got him." Well, I thought we had it sorted out. I woke up this morning. He had sent me some more texts trying to get some refinements. And I hadn't answered him in 5 or 6 hours. And I was like, I blew the yacht, right? It's OBE. And I sent him a text. I'm like, "I'm sorry, man. Thank you so much for trying. I know you did what you could." He's like, "Hey, sir, we rolled out and got him." I had tears running down my face at 5:30 this morning because it was like I asked a Marine to do something, and he did it because another Marine called him from the other side of the world and said, "Hey, we're going to try and save some lives here, bro. Can you do it?" And he did it. And that to me, there's 82 bodies that came through that gate last night because a bunch of vets said, "This is the kind of, this isn't going to stand. We're going to take care of these people." And yeah, I'm getting a little emotional right now about it. But it's the realest thing I've ever seen. I wish I was still in uniform for it, in a way, although I wouldn't be liberated to do what we need to do and what we are doing.
Right.
But I just could not be prouder. I've told several of these guys forward, I got pretty cynical and grumpy and grouchy there the last few years of my career as I said, I was a professional XO. I was America's XO. And it's like these guys are just like rebuilding the fire. I just want to be back in uniform again, and it's like being 19 again, and I want to paint an eagle, globe, and anchor on everything. It's amazing, and as dark as it all seems, and as a friend of mine said a week and a half ago, I feel emotionally paralyzed, and I pretty much did too. This is going a long way to at least reminding me that there's some real goodness in our national character.
So I'll just add one short story. I have a lot of people that reached out to me, and I get them to Worth, and I get them to Joe. And quite frankly, there's so many chats going on. I don't even know which one gets it, but they usually ping me later and tell me whether they got on the flight. And that's when I realized it all worked. But the one that really stuck out, and a long time ago, and I'll be vague with this, but we in my unit, we've lost a lot of people in Afghanistan. But we were on a patrol in the middle of nowhere, and one of the guys who was with us said, "Hey, this is actually my village. I'd love you to stop and have some chai in my house." So we're like, "Okay, sounds like a good idea to us." We went in there, and they had the pictures of two of the guys that were killed in my unit on the wall. And I know a lot of your listeners understand this, but that's not something that's usually done in a Muslim society, pictures of people. So that person was one of the persons that got out with their family. And the only thing he texts me is, "I brought the pictures."
And I got to offer one more just because I could sit here and pile them on all night long and we could just go back and forth. But one that's close to me, my last deployment, one of our really more, every unit has the guys who are kind of the legend guys. And one of him was killed in action. And he'll be inducted into the Commando Hall of Honor down at SOCOM in October. But I got a message from a guy who's out now, former MARSOC Raider. "Hey, here's this guy. We really need to get him out. Do you think you can help?" We all start doing our thing. And this morning I had pictures of him, as a selfie on the plane. And that sort of thing. That guy got out. We were able to let his wife know. His wife's an American citizen. That her husband was going to be able to join her, and it was a really beautiful thing, man. And it was kind of coming full circle a little bit, because I'm not going to say the guy's name just to leave his wife some privacy, but for the Marine who was killed, they said, it's his terp, man. His terp's coming out. We got to get his terp. Yeah, done. And so it's kind of a testament to one of our guys that we lost, who, was an amazing human being, as is obvious by the fact that he's going to be on the wall down at SOCOM forever.
It's incredible. I mean, it really is. And I just second, what you guys said. I mean, it makes me proud of the military and all the hard work that they're doing out there, and just putting in the work and going above and beyond to get all these folks out of there as quickly as they can.
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing. I mean, there's a bunch of tragedy within it, but it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that somehow the Taliban had infiltrated some of the communications channel, not yours, but I guess it's something that the Afghans were using or whatever, and sending out messages as if they were the State Department, like trying to lure them to a particular place. Like it's challenging. It's more challenging than it even looks, and it looks exceptionally challenging.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm familiar with what you're talking about. It was basically telling everybody to meet at a particular hotel. Mm-hmm. And it was quickly determined that was not sent out by the person that actually, it was sent out by the Taliban. So I'd only say that's just an indication of what's to come. I'm really concerned that we have quite a lot of people who have SIVs now in and around the airport. And when we're gone, that's who the Taliban's looking for. Right. Those are the number one. The more you did, whether you were a commando or you were in the NDS, special operations element, those are the top of the list. So, as Worth already mentioned, and I'll continue to say, this effort's not going to be done just because we're not out of there on the 31st. We're going to keep working every way we can to help facilitate this. And as you heard from the Secretary of State today, so is the United States, and I think we owe it to them. But it's these last few days are going to be challenging, and it's going to be full of desperation. But I think it's important for people to know that even if they don't get out, there's still going to be an effort to look after them and do right by them.
Guys, I want to remind you again, there are a few email addresses down in the description of this video. One of the emails is for people who want to volunteer to help Mick and Worth out with this effort. As they're talking about, they have guys who they took time off from their job, they're on vacation, they're, sleeping a couple hours a night, if that, and people are getting burned out. So they need help. They need volunteers. If you think you can do something to help out, please hit that email address and let them know. There's a secondary email down there for people who are in Afghanistan who need to be evacuated. And that's how you can get in touch with these guys here and get the ball rolling on that. So Mick and Worth, final thoughts before we let you go here. We have a second guest, retired Army Colonel Mike Jason, who's going to dial in a couple minutes. Before we get to him, final thoughts from you two.
I guess I'll go first and let Mick wrap it all up. I mean, again, this has been a trying week for everyone, no more so than, no one more than the Afghans. And we've heard a lot of stories, and frankly, their voices are getting more desperate. The emails that I'm getting in the plane at all my various methods of contact are more and more desperate. But we will keep the faith with you. We will still be here going forward. No one left behind will be here. They've been here for years. They're going to continue to be here to support, and we'll transition to the kind of support that everyone's going to require, whether that be helping people move out ultimately and then resettle, job training, whatever it is for these folks that are going to have to start entirely new lives, not in any small measure because they spent a lot of their lives supporting us.
Yeah, and I would just say, super proud to be just one part of this team. Most people behind the scenes are the ones that are doing the Herculean effort that's actually getting these folks out. So super proud of that. But at the end of the day, this is about the commitment we made to our Afghan partners. That's what it's all about. We're going to do everything we can to get you out in the next few days, and we're going to stay with you after that. And I just ask all Americans, actually ask all vets that have served in Afghanistan to talk to your fellow Americans and explain just how good of people these are and why you want them in your community and why they would make such good Americans. And I think that is something we all can do. And once again, just proud to be just one part of the team.
We've had some questions tonight where people donated money to or given money to ask questions.
I don't think we have time to go.
Well, and I just want to tell you, I just want to thank everybody who did. We don't want to like get off topic or derail this conversation.
Look, we are going to have Mick on the Team House in October to talk about his career, so we'll get into all that kind of stuff when the time comes. Hopefully, under much better circumstances by the time we get to October.
And Jack and I haven't talked about this, but I don't think he'd disagree that anything that anybody sent in tonight, we're gonna pass forward, to help the efforts.
Yeah, Dave and I can maybe answer the questions as best we can after we wrap up. So, guys, thank you for taking some time out of your day. I know you're both very busy with all of this. I appreciate you joining us. And if there's anything further we can do, please let us know.
Will do. Thanks so much for helping.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. You go ahead and punch out of here, and I'm going to get Mike dialed in. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. You too. Really appreciate that.
Huge.
Yeah, anything we can do. Yeah, guys. Again, we always deeply appreciate everybody who donates money during the show for your questions and everything, and we don't want you to feel like we take you for granted at all.
We can, while we wait for Mike, we can answer.
We can look at some of these questions. Hey, so Jackson, you had a question for Mick. You can ask him on Friday. You don't need to donate again. Just like call our attention to it, to the fact you already asked this question. And
okay, yeah, it'll be. I'll give you the exact date when Mick is going to be on.
Oh, right, not Friday, but
it's October 8th.
Right,
we'll have him on.
Right.
Here he is. All right, audio is connecting. Hi, Mike. Can you hear us?
Brother, how you doing? I'm
good.
Okay.
How are you?
Like everybody else.
Okay, so you're live right now. You are on the show. I want to introduce you guys to retired Colonel Mike Jason. Mike is running, it is Allied Airlift 21.
That's it.
And there's a link down in the description of this video. You guys can hit that up. Let's just start off real quick, Mike, if you could give us a quick introduction of yourself.
Hey, it's great to meet you, or to talk to you finally after pinging back and forth on the social media. Look, I was an Army officer, 24 years, West Point grad, armor officer, but, like God knows GWAT, you get to do a bit of everything. Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, the works, and I retired in 19. And then, and sort of did I work on I'm a consultant like a lot of retired.
Mike, can you mute whatever that ringing is?
I'm
because
sure as hell trying, and I've tried to turn everything off. That is a chief of staff of a cabinet member that's texting me, so that's where things are at right now.
Wow.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyhow, so look, I did the whole GWAT thing, and then. Like everybody else, I somehow stumbled into this whole activity this week, and working like so many to help our allies get out of Afghanistan. I think that's all the important stuff people need to know about me.
Absolutely, man. So tell us about that. How did you get brought into this effort and set up Allied Airlift?
I've had a thing for my. I say my Terps. My wife hates it when I say that. She's like, they're not yours. I'm like, but there's a sense of ownership. Like, these are my people. These are part of my team. So I was in Iraq a couple times. And then I was with, long story short, I was with Bob Woodruff when he got wounded. And it was actually my interpreter, Omar, that saved his life. And through that story and a little bit of advocacy from a very famous journalist, like that really kickstarted the SIV program, the Special Immigration Visa. So fast forward, Afghanistan's starting to turn down. And then, through a mentor, they're like, oh, we want some veterans for a show on TV. Like, this was 2 months ago. And that's when it kind of started. And I used my 5 minutes of fame to say, hey, listen, we need to get these guys out of here. I started beating the drums and started talking to Matt Zeller online and kind of just, hashtagging like, hey, this Guam thing, we got to do something. Anyhow, so fast forward again 2 weeks, and I wrote this piece in the Atlantic. Coincidentally, like it wasn't much of anything. It was about the Afghan forces. But that weekend, Kabul falls, and all of a sudden, I'm doing all this media, and then at the same time, I'm texting with my war college classmate who's an Afghan commando, and trying with my Italian classmates to get him out. And I'm just frantic, like talking to his daughters in the States. I'm texting with him in Italian and broken English, and with my Italian classmates, and with trying to find the commander of the Kabul airfield. I got the hold of the NCO at the tower, like who's going to, like everybody did, all these rat lines the day Kabul falls, right? And I got him out, and we got him out, I should say, all of us. And so I tweeted, I was happy about it. I'm like, yeah, it was such a relief. And then all of a sudden, like everything, it was like a cacophony of like DMs and Facebook. And then by Tuesday, I'm texting with these West Pointers that are like, we're doing the same thing. How did you do it? And just, I became like the old guy. And this is very younger graduates. I say younger because I'm an old bald guy. And a lot of them were out of the Army, and they're techs, and they had classmates. Afghanistan sent West Point cadets. They graduated and went back to the Afghan Army. They had 3 with their families, and it was a group of 4 West Pointers that wanted to get their classmates out. And they just got together and did the same thing I did. We're all sharing. And this is Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sort of becoming kind of the old guy that's like, listen, we should talk to this guy. By Saturday, I get a Zoom call, and they're like, look, this thing's exploding. And another classmate of mine's on the net, and he's like, we want you to be the interim executive director and go, we need to go bigger. And I was like, what do you say? Like, I hadn't slept in 3 days. I'm like, okay. So I called my buddies. I'm like, let's go. So I've got, my old classmate is the chief of staff, and a friend of mine from G3, she's the 3. And then we just started bringing people in, and more caseworkers, and I don't know, there's like 250, 300 volunteers right now, and we're just jamming 24/7. And look, what are we doing? We are trying to do a validated, vetted, if you can say that, digital Schindler's List for Afghanistan. That's my daughter back behind us.
That's okay.
That, we're going to try and get everybody out. But if we don't, then this is the record, and it's got everything on it. And everybody there has whether you're a veteran and you're like, I got my turf.
It's okay. She could be on the show too if she wants.
Okay. So I got my turf. So you're vouching for them, because a lot of the other sites are just hoovers. Like I was a commando. Sure you were. But ours are like, these are my people. I vouch for them. Here's their documents. And we're up to 21,000 people. They include American citizens and their families, visa holders, third country nationals, everything that you can think of. And look, the rat lines are done. The drug deals at the gate, get my family in. That's not happening. So our last best hope is this final evacuation. We give this product to the United States government, and we're in, I think. I don't know if they're going to use it. And we did all your homework. We validated them. We've got all their documents. We have all the information. You can distribute the spreadsheet into a manifest, call them up. We are in contact with them. We have caseworkers. We can find them. We'll get them transportation. Tell me where to go. You want them wearing red hats at 4:00 in the morning at the North Gate? I got them. And then, and if what doesn't make it, then we know who it is that we have to go get. And that's the American promise.
Uh-huh.
Hey, buddy.
And so the website it's alliedairlift21.org.
Yep.
Okay. And that's what I've been referring a lot of people to, because I get these DMs and texts and everything from people left and right as well. Like, oh my God, I got to get my people out of there. And I send them towards that website. What does that process look like when an Afghan lands on that website and types their information in? What's the process for them going forward?
So we prefer, obviously, because it helps with the vetting, we prefer that, we enter the data. Remember, you've been downrange. You know what these Afghans are going through. They're in a hideout. Their signal sucks. They're scared. They're hungry. They're thirsty. They don't know what's happening. There might be power outages. It's better if we do it and we become the conduit. That was kind of the original model. But it doesn't matter. You get in there and you start registering and you start explaining the situation, and whatever documents you have, you load. And then we try to get a caseworker. 72 hours ago, we had 6 caseworkers and 8,000 cases. Now we have, I forget, 100 caseworkers and 21,000 cases. And by the way, we're trying to be responsible. This is serious PII that we're asking for trust. Not only that, their location. So we're securing the material and we're vetting it started with a bunch of like, hey, I know that guy, whatever. Like I need volunteers. Well, now we're doing ID Me for our volunteers. We have a training video so that they know how they're dealing with the data and how they're putting it in the system. And then we immediately, right now, the crunch is we're looking at that. Okay, this guy says he's an American citizen or he's got a visa. Okay, what did they upload? And we look at it. Does this make sense? Is this the right picture? Is this the category they say they are? And then we go from there. And then for a lot of them, they have, like I said, it's caseworker. So we follow up. Where are you right now? Look, you know how it is. Many of you veterans are doing this. You've got Slack, you've got WhatsApp, and they're texting you and they're scared. Should I go to the gate? Should I not go to the gate? Should I go to Kabul? And that's what our people are doing. And we are trying right now. We've got volunteers. So as it turns out, mental health is bound by states. And I've got a guy in Belgium. I've got people on the West Coast. And I've got voluntary psychiatrists that want to help us with our own mental resilience. And we can't figure out how to cross state boundaries to help the team. I mean, these are modern day challenges of what we're trying to do.
Wow. So, I mean, just so many questions. I mean, how many, you said you have 21,000 cases you're currently trying to handle?
Yeah.
How many do you think you've processed so far and gotten out of there?
Well, gotten out is a different thing. We've gotten probably several hundred people inside the gates of the airport. So whether they've actually been able to make a flight or not, we can't confirm that on all of them yet. Mm-hmm. We believe at this point in time, we're sitting at 12 to 1,300 people that meet and in a groups of, I think each line or a case is like a family group, and an average there are at least 5 people, right? So a lot of these American citizens, like they're AMSITs, but they married, they're naturalized, and they've got a spouse and children or parents or brothers and sisters that are Afghans. So then not the entire group has a blue passport. So that's the complexity of this. Right. In essence, it's like our system is asking them, hey, you can get out, but leave your family. And of course, they're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So I would say right now that the last count that we've sent to some of the leadership is like, look, I can promise, it's a degree of confidence from the very top. There's at least 1,200 people, like they should be on a plane tonight. Like they're ready to move everything. I've got, what document do you want? How do you want me to spin it? And then it just starts going down. Like maybe it's a family of 9 and like one child doesn't have a document, or something is missing, and it just starts going down from that. And then a lot of Afghans self-register and you have to get to them. Like I don't know, like I said, you say you're SIV, but there's no number. So it takes a while to do that vetting, but that's what we are trying to do. That's the only thing we can do right now, I think.
With this coming on so quickly, the fall of Kabul and everything, were there a number of Afghans who were qualified for SIVs but never put in for it because they're like,
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that, okay. I mean, I got in this argument on the media, right? Because I tweeted something. It was like, the law, the NDA, the National Defense Authorization, said that the SIVs, the maximum was 50 for Iraq and Afghanistan combined. Now a year. Now that is not even a drop in the bucket, right? And somebody said, no, the law was recently changed. It's like up to 4,000. Yeah? Go to state.gov as of last night. It says 50 on the forward-facing site on the page about SIV. So, I mean, like, it was dormant. And then you got people that applied in 2014. They're still waiting. And it's like, schedule an appointment at the embassy in Kabul. Then, of course, COVID hits.
Right.
And then some of them are like, you remember how it was, like, oh, you're a translator, then this company takes over the contract, and this one, well, now we want you to do a polygraph. Oh, you failed the polygraph because you got nervous, or you misspelled Muhammad when you translated it from Dari into English, and it's not the same name. And the Tashkira number was mistranslated because somebody fat fingered it. And you must have been lying, right? I mean, it's just mind-boggling how easy it is to be kicked off an SIV process. So there were thousands of people that had applied or were in the pipeline or were denied for bullshit reasons. Then it was a 2-year requirement. Well, we closed this fob, and then you left that company, went to this company. It's just, again, like, and all of a sudden, oh, the gates are open. Were you an SIV applicant? And we're trying to chase that down. The only thing we have is like a guy like you says, no, this guy was my TERP. And that's the bread and butter of our organization.
So it's like word of mouth almost.
Yeah, it's the vouching.
Wow, man.
I heard recently something like the administration asked the VA, like, how many OEF do we have veterans in the VA system that maybe could help us, vet these files? I'm like, stop. I already did the homework for you. Here is a list of 20,000 people, and from the top going to the bottom with high degree of confidence that they worked for. And it's not just military. I'm talking to press. Every agency had like 100 local Afghans, BBC, CNN, NGOs, advocacy groups, companies, DynCorp. Like, they all can jump in and vouch for their people, but they're all in danger.
So is there a database that you have where people can search like by unit to see if a TERP that they worked with is maybe listed there?
No, I'm not. If we're a company, that's what we're protecting. And look, I'm entering uncharted territory. I'm hiding it behind, it's in a secure commercial site, but now we're talking to Salesforce, which deals with the government, to make sure we firewall it even more. I hired a neighbor of mine. He's a volunteer. He's a neighbor of mine, Annapolis Navy grad, and he's a cyber intel guy. My task force JAG from SOTF, he's an attorney, and he's a cyber guy now, and he's my general counsel. I'm like, dude, are we doing this right? Because we got PII, we got information, we got to protect this. Are we safeguarded? So I'm doing ID.me for all of our volunteers. Like, this is the gems, because this is these people's lives that they've entrusted us with. So we've tried to set up so, like, you're a caseworker, you enter your case, but you don't get access to the kingdom. Right. That's only for like the leadership. And then when official people ask us, give me the list, like, I and like the senior people approve it, and then we email it. And it looks like a spreadsheet, but it's like multiple layers of depth. But behind it, if we actually get in with the Salesforce, people and inside the DoD, like, I have the imagery of all of their documentation, like digital as well.
Right. Yeah, Salesforce actually seems like a good product for that.
It's happening. We're just trying to figure out when do we digitally transfer without losing momentum of the caseload.
Right.
I can't believe what you guys have done in just like 2 weeks, if that.
Yeah, 9 days, I think, officially.
It's unreal, and I wish we saw this sort of level of cooperation more often. I think it's a great thing you guys are doing.
I want to talk cooperation, because look, I'll tell you, we're like a task force. And I mean, Digital Dunkirk, I think somebody's trying to brand it. I know we used the hashtag somewhere, but like, it's like Me Too. It's a rallying cry.
Right.
So then we tried Afghan evac, because Dunkirk was a little Western. I forget. There was a reason they didn't, whatever. But look, no one left behind. Team America. We all have like a meeting every 12 hours to crosstalk. We share lessons learned. We exchange. It's basically we exchange L&Os. And the community has been collaborating pretty significantly. I think our product is the list. I think we stumbled into it, and that seems to be kind of the one thing that might survive, because it is the digital promise to these people that somebody still remembers them and is going to try to get them out.
Right. So since the whole thing with somebody remembering them, and since obviously for intelligence reasons and their safety and everything else, people can't just publicly access this. How can people help if anybody's in our audience, worked with Afghani Terps and wants to help vet or verify? What do they do? Do they go? Do they do an ID me and they say as with this unit, and then?
No. So our at this point, there's obviously two. Well, we're look. This is a race against time.
Right.
I think some of you might be some paratroopers. I did just 5. But look, I remember distinctly pulling the wrong slip at jump school, and the guy with the megaphone says, "Hold what you got, airborne." We're at that point.
Right.
And we're riding the storm for the next 48, 72, and it's almost like we decided it became distracting to bring on more people and train them because we're in a storm. But the way we've set it up, and because maybe we get an extension. So there's 2 entry points. It's basically I'm trying to get people out. So I go here. And you can do it as a veteran, as an NGO, as a media person. I got a guy, several senior media people that have entered their information for their person. And it helps a lot because they're on the line, right? So when I pass this to the government, it's like, look, they're vouched for. And then there's volunteers. And you sign up, and then we've had a huge dump of people, and it's very difficult because we want to stop and train you and identify you. I literally got 5 of my West Point classmates 95, so we're old, right? So like retired colonels and lieutenant colonels and very professional civilians that like all they did for the last 48 hours was go through applications of like, is this person who they say they are? Is there a 3-week presence on the internet? Like. Because we can't trust these people. We can't trust a rando with our people's lives. Right. And that's where we're at.
Right. Yeah, that it seems exceptionally challenging.
On multiple dimensions.
Right. Right.
I mean, like I said, then we're trying to safeguard the stuff. So we're like, we need to buy things. Okay, now we buy things. We got to raise money. So now I got to have a board, right? And some of the guys that started are like, "You're making this too complicated. Why do we have a board?" I'm like, because to buy this protection, I have to raise money. And I got donors, but now I got to have a governance. Right. And now I have to have a board and a CFO, right? And I got to file 501 C3, right? Like we filed. Can we not send somebody a Gmail account? Oh yeah, okay. Well, we got to do that too, and Zoom licenses, right? I mean, it's just like we were a bunch of officers trying to get our friends out a week ago, Tuesday.
Right. So, is there anything that our audience or people that they have contact with? Is there anything that they can do for you? Is there any kind of help that you guys need?
Yeah. Look, we are where we are in the storm right now for getting people out. Like that is out of most of our hands, but we don't have to quit here. We have to start thinking about what the pivot looks like. That's what our organization's doing. All right. So first of all, a lot of people want to donate money. I don't need your money. I got plenty of money we're all volunteers. None of us getting paid. None of us are buying equipment. And I've got the donations that we need to do the little things we need to do. I think it's the Lutheran Refugee Services. They're going to be at the forefront of resettlement in the United States. So that's a good place to dump your money. And at some point, there are other organizations that are doing it too, the International Red Cross. The second piece is the counter narratives are already started. All right, I don't need to name people, but look, these aren't like dregs of. These are our partners and their families. These are our allies. These are people we fought with. Mm-hmm. So if your audience wants to do something, be positive, be welcoming in your community, and tell anybody who has any doubt that these are our brothers and sisters, and they're absolutely welcome in our communities to start their lives with nothing, based on their faith and that they put in us. And we owe everything to them. And we will be there, shana bashana, shoulder by shoulder, as we help them get their new lives back on the ground. And then long term, so that's that effort. And long term, we're not going to get everybody out. So the issue is, what are we going to do? And then we got to keep ringing that bell, and we got to keep the story alive and keep the efforts alive. Somebody's going to get out, and they're going to say, "Hi, I used to be a Terp 10 years ago," and we're going to be like, I got the list, mm-hmm. and we can validate that, and you're welcome in the United States, because this story's not over yet.
Wow, man. Hardcore, Mike. I mean, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing here, and I'll continue to refer people to AlliedAirlift21.org for people who are trying to get evacuated out of Afghanistan. Any stories before we wrap up? Are there any stories, any success stories, anything you really want to highlight, put a spotlight on for people out there who wonder what this is all about?
I mean, there are so many. I think stuff's already made it in the press. Go to the X gate and have your kids carry balloons, and then the guards know who they are, or there's just have the Mary Poppins umbrella was another one for recognition. There's just so many heart-rendering stories out there, but there's nothing. And again, there haven't been enough. But when you see those photos, because they're really quick, man, to send you the digital selfie when they're sitting in that freaking Freedom Bird.
Right. Right.
When I got my guy, I mean, and his family, and they're sitting in the plane, there's nothing like it. And we got too many of them, and we can't stop.
So you said you have enough volunteers at the moment, or you're not training up anybody because you're kind of in the eye of the storm right now, just making things happen. Is there anything else people need to know other than AlliedAirlift21.org? Here's the ask. And if you're in government, or if you have, and we're working this, I mean, we're the highest levels. But if there's ever any doubt, the bureaucratic process, the SIV application, we have done the homework for the Department of State, the Department of Defense. Our product is digital. It is ready to go. We can email it any way they want. It's safe. It's secure. It's got every phone number, every vouching. You go down on a level of confidence. Just take it, put it in a redunculator, and spit out your manifest, and get my people on an aircraft. We've done the work for you. There's a bunch of guys with laptops in a hotel somewhere in Kabul trying to figure it out. Based on we've done it. We've validated these people. Get them on a plane. The Allied Airlift 21 register is ready to go, and we can get thousands of people on a plane tonight. They're ready to move. So you're looking the next step to interface with Department of State and INS, the various organizations that handle this stuff.
I'm looking right now, state and DOD, to officially, I should say, receive our document, and translate it into a evacuation plan.
Right. A manifest.
I've done the work for them. They just have to literally flip the charts to a manifest and break it up by air flights.
Gotcha. Right. And I mean,
I can update them every 10 minutes.
Is that
flights?
Sorry about that. Is that some of the pushback that might be coming from government or whomever, is the worried about, these people not being vetted, people slipping on, but the people that you guys are putting forth are people who've already been vetted by military and civilian personnel who have worked with them, who know them, who's like, yes, this is who they worked with us.
They will get an AMSIT who says, I'm an American and I have 9 family members and I want to get out, and they apply on a state website, and somewhere a state person who's maybe evacuating him or herself, or sitting in a hotel ballroom in downtown Kabul, or at a whatever building they're using now, has to sit there and, okay, show me your passports, right? I've done that to a degree of certainty for thousands of people.
Right. That's amazing.
Completely done. Emails, points of contact, cell phones. You want to text them? Grab this column, send out your cyber push. Done.
Right.
So the selling point is I already did this.
Right.
Just get them on a flight.
Right.
Double check the work, get them on a flight.
Right. The data's all there. It's all ready to go. Yeah.
Especially the 5,000 SIVs.
Mm-hmm.
5,000.
And we just got a couple days left before the deadline for the withdrawal.
Yep.
What is it? It's the 31st. So we have 5 days?
31st, backdate, whatever it takes for them to get their shit out of there, right?
Right. Unreal, man. I mean, really, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing, Mike. Before we let you go, I know you're tired as hell and got like many other like real things to attend to at this moment. Any final thoughts here before we let you go tonight?
Look, I know a lot of our generation is dealing with a lot right now. Hats off to. I never understood the Vietnam generation. Some of them that I know have been very kind. They probably saw Saigon fall in a bar or in a restaurant or on TV in their living room by themselves. thank God we have sort of the social media, because at least we know we're not alone. So to all of you out there, you're not alone. We're all processing this kind of shock and grief and rage at the same time. But this is not about, now is not the time to feel sorry for ourselves. We got to get as many out. And when the wall closes and we know we're not going to get everybody, then we'll feel shock and rage again. And that's still not the time to feel sorry for ourselves, because we got to help them start their new lives.
Right.
So we have a mission on top of a mission on top of a mission. Do not hit the bottle. Now is not the time. Our organization, me personally, I'm asking you all, veterans, my peers, my friends, stand up again. There's still more work to do.
Thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Mike, and kind of getting this message out there. I hope that we talk again under better circumstances. And if there's anything anything we can do for you on our end, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, brother. It's been a pleasure. I've wanted to get on this thing for a while. It's great to talk to you finally.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it again under better circumstances when things calm down a little bit.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, Mike. Take care, man. Have a nice night.
Thanks, Mike.
And again, everyone out there, AlliedAirlift21.org is the place to refer people to.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night, Mike.
So, everyone out there, appreciate you joining us tonight. This is kind of a different episode than what we normally do, but I think it was an important one. I know a bunch of people did make some donations here and ask some questions. Do you want to go through them as best we can, Dave? Jackson asks, how accurate are the rumors of 22 SAS kinetically targeting Taliban cells essentially behind enemy lines? The media has run with this narrative. I haven't heard anything about that. He said, thank you guys for all you're doing. Larry says, here is money, get them home. Man, Larry, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy to donate money to
we will, though. Everything that was donated on tonight's show, we will send forward.
We'd probably give it to. He said he started a 501c3. So
sure they don't need money. We'll probably send it to the Team America or the.
There's someone we can give it to. I'm sure. Jerry, can I share this email with other SF guys? Man, it's public. It's they put it out there. It's for anybody who needs it. Something like Operation Samoom in 1990. I don't know anything about that, I'm afraid. Is there any truth to Eric Prince charging $6,500 per seat for evac and an additional rate for a personal escort from their homes? I know that came out in the news today. I have no idea if that's true or not. And here we go. Hottest of takes. Afghanistan would not be in this situation if we had gone with Eric Prince's plan in 2018. Sure thing, dude.
What was the plan? I don't know what the plan was.
He was trying to sell shit to the White House at the time. So man, that's it. I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say.
Well, I think that one of the important things, just like Mike just said, was sort of the pushback or the narrative, sort of regardless of how a person might feel of, of different refugee programs that the United States has sponsored in the past, or the United States' ability or willingness or whatever to vet those people. Whatever you might think about any of that, this is not that. The people that we've had on tonight, the people, the other people that are involved with these, we're dealing with a couple different things. One, we're dealing with U.S. citizens who are naturalized U.S. citizens, people who maybe grew up in the United States, came here, or their families came here during the time of the Russians when they were young, or whatever else.
They're Afghan Americans.
They're Afghan Americans. Then they went back to Afghanistan to work as interpreters, and they still had family members over there, and are attempting to leave, but also leave with their family members. Or we have the interpreters who have worked side by side with United States troops, and if you're worried about who are we letting over, these people have had the lives of U.S. soldiers, airmen, and Marines in their hands at any given time and have stuck with the fight, have stayed with the fight, have, proven themselves reliable and trustworthy. And they are people who are incredibly deserving of U.S. citizenship. I mean, we've had partnerships with places like the Philippines in the past, where if somebody served in the United States military, typically the Navy, for 4 years, and they would get be qualified for citizenship. This is sort of like that, where these people have lived a military life side by side with U.S. soldiers, and some of them for years and years and years. So that if we could, I think that if we could,
yeah, they're already vetted. They've already proved their loyalty to us. Like that's really not the question. They've proved it under combat,
right?
Under threat of their lives,
right? And so I think that if we could sort of ask anything of you, is it when you see this narrative come out, just remind people that this isn't whatever they think it is. This is people who have lived with us, fought with us, broken bread with us for years, and that's why so many veterans and so many people are so invested in getting them out, because they know these people. They know them. They have fought with them. They've lost loved ones with them. So that, I think that's a really important message.
Absolutely. These are definitely the type of people we want to come to America and live here, and they make great Americans. And I mentioned, the example of my interpreter, actually interpreters plural, who are Yazidi in Iraq, and now they live here in the United States, and they're just thriving. And it's amazing. It's amazing the journey they've been on. And now we're about to see thousands, if not, over 10,000 Afghans make that same journey. As like Mike Jason said, like it's a monumental task. And I do think we're up to it. But yeah, there can't be any bullshit thrown in the mix.
These are the Vietnamese, the Montagnards, and
lots of them came here.
The refugees that the Vietnam vets were so.
It was a lot of special forces veterans that went back there and got the Montagnards out.
Right. And this is a very similar situation. So for those of you who are kind of late and joining us now and want to know how you can help, there are two asks here. One with the Digital Dunkirk guys, the emails are right there. Team America. Those for the volunteers, you can either join their Facebook group or it's Melissa sjk@gmail.com. And then they also, I think through Team America, I believe hit
those emails down in the description. Those are the ones those guys gave me, Mick and Worth, for the Digital Dunkirk effort. There's one email is for people who want to volunteer and help them out. The other one is for people who actually need to be evacuated. And then the secondary effort that Mike Jason shared with us is alliedairlift21.org, and there's a link to that down in the description.
Right, and then there's also what Mike had mentioned was the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, who will be taking the lead on the resettlement of a lot of these Afghan refugees. So you can go to their site at www.lirs.org and either donate or volunteer for that effort. So
yeah, guys. I mean, this is like a heavy subject. It's a breaking news subject. Again, we don't normally cover breaking news in that sense on the Team House, but I'm really glad that we did this episode. I think it was very meaningful. I think it's a worthy cause. It's something we got to do, and I think it's as depressing and sad as a lot of it is. It's also very inspiring to see how many of these veterans have like kind of come together and cooperated and worked with one another to just get shit done. It's been really impressive, and that's why we want to just lend our support, do the little media support that we can on our end for some of these gents out there who are really working hard on it. And on Friday, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. We're going to have Jamie Caldwell on the Team House this Friday at our normal time at 8 p.m. He is a retired sergeant major, and he was a unit operator. I checked with him. He's letting me say unit operator. I can't say more than that. You'll just have to fill in the blanks on your own. Really good guy. So we'll be talking to him on Friday.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and please spread the word about these organizations and about the effort that they are putting in.
So that's it.